Hi, I'm Matt from Northern Sword. I decided that I'm going to do the first FAQ video today. I ran through the messages and I realized that the two most common questions that I usually get asked are, how much and is this infected? So, I'm going to kind of go over this stuff really quick. Just give you guys like a 5 or 6 kind of like, breakdown on things. So, with the industry these days, there's actually a whole lot of variance in price ranges. So as the clients, you guys really don't know what you're supposed to be looking for a lot of the time. There's a certain quality standard that's specifically geared towards this industry that unfortunately isn't either understood or practiced by numerous body art practitioners. The jewelry should meet specific standards. ASTM F136 typically for titanium, ASTM F138 for stainless steel. The ASTM is American Society for Testing Materials. They're a body that essentially test materials, find out what they're most suited for, decide whether they're completely safe or suitable within certain tolerances. So, that being said, a huge chunk of the body jewelry that's hitting the market in North America these days is manufactured offshore in factories that are just cutting wire, threading it, running it through a tumbler, and not really putting a lot of care into the manufacturing or the stone setting. Things are glued, things are foil wrapped, they fall out when you sterilize them in an autoclave. All sorts of unpleasant materials, just numerous things that you guys should need to know how to look out for when you're getting a piercing done. Generally, I ideally prefer I like to have access to mill certificates, which are the documents that dictate exactly what alloys and how much of them are in the materials, which ultimately decide if it's implant grade or not, or ASTM F136 or ASTM F138. There's other materials such as fused quartz or Pyrex glass or niobium that are also really good. Plastics should be avoided at all cost. There's not really a lot that can be done with plastics as far as body jewelry goes. I've seen some decent Delrin, some decent Teflon. Even then, I'm not a big fan of polymers in the long run, but also like some manufacturers like Industrial Strength and Anatometal used to have have some dental grade acrylic in their line that has since been discontinued. Generally, I tell people if you walk into a studio and you see a large amount of acrylic in the jewelry case, you really should start asking yourself some questions. The other thing is polish. The polish on the jewelry is absolutely necessary for a smooth healing process, because if you've got a piece of jewelry that's all dinged up with like tool marks and scratches and machining marks and whatnot, that creates a bacteria trap and gives the jewelry a rougher consistency, which makes it less pleasant to wear. It hurts a little bit when you move sometimes, and it's bacteria, like I said, bacteria traps, so it increases the likelihood of infection, damages the inside tissue, and it's no fun for anybody. So all jewelry should be internally threaded or threadless in design. Have a mirror polish. That means you should be able to pick up the piece of jewelry and see yourself in it. And right here I have a piece of a navel curve from Industrial Strength Body Jewelry. See how shiny that is? Yeah, mirror finish. Stone's nicely set in mechanical settings rather than affixed with an epoxy or a solder. And then we have this one from kind of back in the days before I was a little more enlightened about jewelry design. So this one, you'll notice that the finish on it's not quite as nice, and it's got what's called an external thread. And an external thread means the threads are on the outside, and that's no fun because those threads are actually getting pushed through a fresh wound when you get a piercing done. So it overall makes the entire experience of getting pierced a little less comfortable. So, and that's where one of the reasons why you run into a big variance in price, because where one of those ones, like the one that I just showed you, that little labret stud with spike on it, those usually run for about $4 to $20 in your average mall store, kind of street shop kind of approach to things. And it's not uncommon to find a lot of studios still using these. They're typically made out of 360 nail stainless steel, but it's usually not documented how it's alloyed or how it's processed. The finish on them is usually much lower quality, and that's why that jewelry comes at a significantly lower price point, because a lot of shops buy those ones for about 50 cents to $3 or $4, sometimes cheaper if they get them super in bulk. And when you're finding studios that are doing like $20 and $30 piercings, and that's the stuff you're usually finding. It's not cost effective to use the implant grade stuff at that price point. Like one of the things, like these are the librets that, some of the librets I typically use. This is neo metal, so it's a threadless design. It actually just snaps in. And it's a really, really secure fixture because there's no threads to come loose. Also, it's completely smooth when it's going in, which is going to make for a much nicer transition. So those ones cost a little bit more, because on average those ones wholesale for quite a bit more, and as a result of which we need to sell them for more, because they do cost a lot more to manufacture. There's more work, more labor put into them, more care in the place or the way they're designed, the polish, the machining, everything is precision. You're always paying more for precision. With piercing, there should really be no other alternative to precision work. Body piercing is itself a precision trade. It needs to be done within like accuracies of fractions of like a millimeter or centimeter sometimes, depending on exactly where on the anatomy you're going. So it's like anything. If you want things done right, you're going to wind up paying a little bit more, but we also guarantee anything that we do for a year regarding care and safety of the piercing. And as long as you follow the aftercare instructions that I typically give, keep in jewelry that's high quality and don't put any cheap costume jewelry in it, I've got your back right until the very end. You know, because that's how I roll. I do I love my job and I love dealing with you guys, and I try to provide the best product possible. So, yeah, with that in mind, keep note that there's a huge difference in jewelry quality. There's even a huge difference in training. Piercers nowadays, like piercers should have bloodborne pathogens training, all sorts of infection control, continued education. There's, problems like MRSA that can arise, and you really want to kind of keep cross-contamination under control. OSHA guidelines should be observed in the piercing room. I like to, from an aftercare perspective, I like to go with something that's relatively non-invasive. But yeah, that's pretty much it as far as like kind of the price points that you're going to be dealing with, because with us, our basics start at 50, and that's anything with a hoop. Anything that can be done with a hoop, because unfortunately there's certain pieces of anatomy where that design of jewelry isn't ideal due to it being more subject to mechanical stress, getting bumped, snagged, stuff like that. And I want to see what I do heal. So, and I'm always going to kind of steer you towards the jewelry that's going to make a difference. And if there is really no healing difference with the jewelry, then it's strictly an aesthetic choice, and I leave it completely up to you. There's a lot of piercings that I've been known to I've been known to talk people down in like price point, because they'll want something done with a barbell that in their anatomy is actually a lot more suitable with a hoop. So at the end of the day, I'm not trying to it's not just business for me, it's an art form, it's what I love, and I try to make it a point to give you guys the best service possible. And yeah, this was the first FAQ of hopefully many. There's probably going to be some changes over, like, in the videography and stuff. I'm going to see if I can get some buddies to help me out with it, and see if we can get something that's kind of a little more on, like, better production value and stuff. And on that, have a good one, and hope to see you soon. Bye.